This is Cruise Radio.
Cruise Radio is brought to you in part by tripinsurance.com. Travel insurance done right by the people who know travel insurance. Get a quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Here we go.
Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. This is Cruise Radio.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Doug Parker. Thank you so much for checking out this weekend's edition of Cruise Radio with staff writer Richard Sims. Going to talk about our first sailing on Virgin Voyages Brilliant Lady. And before we get to Richard, I want to tell you cruise news today. The top 3 stories of the day, plus the stock quotes. You can hear it Monday through Friday, just opposite of this channel, or on YouTube at Cruise News Today. Okay, jumping right into it here with staff writer Richard Sims. Richard, you were initially, you had the Carnival Venezia booked, which was the ship docked right next to Brilliant Lady the day we embarked. What made you want to change it up last minute?
Yeah, I had already done that ship, the Venezia, and I really liked it. I thought it was a cool blend. You know, it is the whole Carnival Italian style or Italian Carnival style, whichever you want to say. And I liked it. But then when I found out that Virgin was doing sailings out of New York City, and they were only doing like 5 sailings before the ship relocated. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to jump on this because I've never done Virgin. I was sort of excited about a lot of the things I'd heard. I was also very nervous about it, about the brand as a whole and the ship in particular, because I'm not what you see in the ads for Virgin. You know, when you think of Virgin, you tend to think like, you know, young and exciting and, you know, party ship. And I'm 61. That ain't really me. I struggle to stay up past 9:30, but I really wanted to do it. And I mentioned it to my neighbor who I often cruise with, and she was into it. And then she had a friend who was into it. And then my housemate was into it. And then you were into it. And so next thing you knew, we just all were on the Brilliant Lady.
Yeah, and before we get to the ship here, I was really wishing that you still had that apartment in Hell's Kitchen before the cruise, man, because I flew straight in from, it was 17 hours from Manila to JFK. And I was like, I'll just get a hotel when I land in New York. The cheapest hotel I could find in Manhattan was like $569 for that night before our cruise. So I wound up just staying out by the JFK airport and Ubering in. And even with the hotel rate at the Hyatt JFK and the Uber rate, it was still cheaper than what I would have paid for a pre-night stay in Manhattan.
Insane. Yeah, there aren't many times that I miss Manhattan or that apartment, but pre-cruise, definitely. Or even the house, at the time that we had the apartment, we also lived in Inglewood, which is only 20 miles outside of the city. And even that, you could have come out to there and stayed, especially since we were all going to be going into the city together.
Well, at least we all got there, right? So you get to the pier. What did you think of that embarkation line?
I don't know about your experience because we actually didn't get together until we were on the ship. But I will say that I was surprised how bad embarkation was. Just a crazy, crazy, crazy long line. And it moved okay. And once you got through the line and went through security, and then you had to go and, check in and get your actual wristband or bracelet, whatever you want to call it. But it was much longer than I've usually seen when I go through the New York terminal for like an NCL ship or even for a Carnival ship. It was surprisingly long. And the only thing I can think is that Virgin tries very hard to get you to stick to an arrival time. And I'm guessing that because most people sailing out of New York have probably never sailed Virgin before, they completely disregarded that. And we're probably all there at like 10 a.m., even though the ship didn't start boarding until 2. So that was sort of not the best note to start off on, to be honest.
How long did it take you to get from the curb to the ship?
Oh, geez. I'm gonna guess 40 minutes, maybe. Mm-hmm. Which isn't a huge amount of time. It's just, it just seemed as if it could have been a smoother embarkation.
Yeah, I did appreciate that there was not much to do once you did get inside, because you do everything pre-cruise with your uploading your passport and your credit card and everything. So it's like other cruise lines, most other cruise lines where it's boom, 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 and you're on the ship. Once you get that last check past security, you're good to board the ship.
As long as you're in your embarkation time. They actually had little lines. Mm-hmm. They had individual lines that said like 2 p.m., 2:30, 2:45, 3 o'clock. We had a I had a 2:30 boarding time, but somebody in my party had a 2:45, so we just waited and went at 2:45, and we were able to get right on the ship. But you did see people who were standing in line in like the 3 and the 3:30. And if everybody from the earlier time was already on, if there was nobody in those lines, then they did let those people on. But really, if you're doing Virgin, it's worth noting that you really should stick to your embarkation time. It'll make everything a lot smoother.
My embark schedule was from 1:45 through 3:30, I believe, and I rolled in around 3 o'clock. It took me about 30 minutes from the curb to the ship. But speaking of the ship, what were your first impressions of Brilliant Lady?
One of the things I was worried about getting on board this ship was that it wasn't going to be comfortable. That, we had heard reports, and I've talked to other people who've sailed, and that it was sort of, my friend Gary, who was traveling with us, is a very big believer in form over function. As long as it looks good, he doesn't care if it's comfortable. And that was sort of what I expected of everything about this ship, from the seating areas to the stateroom. Like when I looked at pictures of the stateroom, it did not look comfortable to me. It looked very modern, very almost, sort of futuristic, but it didn't necessarily look comfortable. But I will say that almost immediately upon stepping on board, I got the vibe. I got what they were going for. I really, I understood it. And we pretty quickly went to our staterooms, and there were things about the stateroom that I liked and things that I didn't like, but I ended up over the next 5 days liking it a whole lot more than I expected to.
Yeah, the first impressions felt very clean. I guess I could use the word sterile, because like the hand, it just felt like it was a clean ship and there wasn't germs everywhere. And going to the stateroom, like you were saying, I liked how much space there was. Like I found, like even like through my voyage, I was like, oh my gosh, you could put stuff under your bed, or there's a basket at the end of my bed. I had a solo insider. I know you had a balcony, but I found all these nooks and crannies that you could actually put stuff in. It was perfectly fine. How about yours?
It was good. I will say I am not a fan of the open closet. It has like a curtain that you pull across it, almost like a shower curtain kind of thing. I didn't love that, but it was a pretty spacious room. I would be interested to see Virgin, not always, but a lot of their voyages are shorter. So, 5 days worth of stuff. I was traveling solo. I was in the sea terrace. I was able to kind of I brought a lot of stuff, let's be honest, but I was pretty able to fill up all the spaces. I can't help but thinking if I was 2 people in that stateroom on, say, a week or 10-day or 14-day voyage, I don't know that I would have had the same reaction. I think I would have found it a little hard to find space for everything if that was the situation.
Thoughts on how modern the stateroom was?
At first, I did not like it, but then I started playing with, they infamously have the tablet and you can control the room, and you can set like Zen mode and it dims the lights, and you push a button and the curtains open for you. And it really, I'm not the most technologically savvy person in the world, but I really got into it. I also loved that, like, on that tablet, you could do everything. You could order food. You could watch. There were like, 100 movies. The interesting thing is you had to spend a little bit of time getting familiar with the tablet. I think it was on day 2, I was talking to one of our group, and I was saying, oh, I watched this movie. And they're like, that movie's not on there. And I said, well, no, you have to know to, like, go to the section of the movies and then scroll. And it looks at first as if there's only 5 or 6 movies, but there's actually like 100 and 150 movies. So you really have to spend a few minutes getting to know the tablet. And once you do, some people just completely ignore it for the whole trip, which is fine. I used it a lot. But I think the thing that everybody talks about, and you think it's going to be a gimmick, it's the hammock. And let me tell you, that is not a gimmick. I mean, I went out on that terrace the first day as we were sailing away, and I sat in that hammock, and I wanted to live there. It is so comfortable, and it's hard to describe because the way they do it, they don't string it from like side to side. They string it from a central post. So you can either sit up in it, or if you use your feet to sort of scooch the bottom part out, you can like lay down and you're just swaying and looking out at the ocean. And every single one of us commented on just how amazing that is. Like every cruise line should steal that. Every cruise line needs to have a hammock or two on the balcony because it changes everything, really. It's crazy. What did you think of the inside stateroom?
I liked it because I love to sleep, and because I'm getting up like every morning at 4:30 doing my news briefs and stuff here, I really appreciate a dark, cold stateroom. And that's exactly what I got. I mean, I know some mornings I woke up and you were texting me at like 7 o'clock and I replied at 1 p.m. because I was sleeping. So the bathroom was nice. You have the glass shower door in there and you have a little space underneath the counter to put some stuff in. But yeah, I liked it.
I don't know if you guys caught what he did there, but he played the guilt card on all of us. I get up at 4:30.
No, I do it because I want to.
All of you.
I want to do it.
I know. I'm kidding. Yeah, I agree. I thought the bathroom was a decent size. It was a little bit on the small side. If you were a bigger traveler, it would be a little bit on the small size. What's interesting is Kimberly, one of the people we were traveling with, I had a central sea terrace and she had one of the slightly larger ones, and the layout was different. The closet was in a different space. The bathroom was a little bit bigger. It had a separate door for the shower and the commode. So it was a little different. The one thing I did not like, and I still don't understand, and I cannot believe they've done 4 ships and it's still doing it, that bed configuration makes no sense. So assuming that you are traveling, that you are keeping the bed in its original configuration, you've got a nice, comfy, what is it, queen size, king size, whatever. If you are doing now on a traditional ship, when you want to separate those and make them into 2 single beds, they put like a table or a nightstand in between them. Here, what they do is they swing one of the beds over to the side onto this wooden platform, which doesn't work on several levels. For one thing, if you are not breaking the beds up, you are stuck with this wooden platform that just serves no purpose whatsoever and takes up space. If you are doing the 2 single bed thing, then one of you has your feet in the other's face, or you both are sleeping head to head, or no matter how you do it, it's just awkward. I do not get that. Otherwise, I thought the room design was pretty good.
There's not enough good things to say about the tablet, but chatting with customer or chatting with guest relations on there, ordering food, those couple hundred movies, as you were explaining. There's just so much to do, creating like 7 different moods for your room on it as far as the lighting goes. I absolutely love that. Let's switch gears here and talk about the food. When this cruise line was announced in 2015, they were saying, we are the anti-buffet cruise line, but are they really?
Okay. I got on this ship having, I'd seen pictures of the galley, which is sort of a food court thing. And I was like, that's a buffet. It really isn't, though. I mean, like, I went there for lunch one day. I went there for breakfast one day. Some of the people in our group went there like 2-3 times a day because they loved it. And the way it's set up, I guess you could say that it's set up like stations at a buffet, but it doesn't feel like that. Like in the morning, you go to Diner and Dash, and you can either stand in line and get the pre-prepared food, or you can go, there's an order station, and you can order a homemade omelet. Or you go to Hot Off the Press, and they are making fresh paninis and fresh. I mean, you had one morning for breakfast, you had this thick slice of like banana bread with Nutella and bananas and jelly on top, and it looked amazing. I know there are people who are going to say it's a buffet, and I was one of them until I got on that ship. I really think it's not a buffet. You know what it's more like? It's sort of like Norwegian's Indulge food hall, with the big difference being, you basically go from station to station, whereas at Indulge, they come to you and take your order. Now, you can sit at a table and put up your little flag and someone will come and take your order, but it's a lot easier to just sort of wander around and see what's available and get what you want from this station or that. That's what it reminded me of more than a buffet.
But earlier this summer, you did Holland America, and couldn't it be the same? Because at Holland America, you said you didn't serve yourself there. They had people behind each station serving you or making you a panini or pasta or whatever.
They did. I think the big difference for me was that most of that was pre-made, like you see in most buffets. Here, a lot of the stuff they were making, like when you ordered it, they made it fresh. When I ordered the omelet in the morning at Diner and Dash, it was being made fresh. When you ordered the panini. They made it, put it in the oven, the whole thing. It feels different. There are people who are going to argue until the day they die that it's a buffet. I will say this. If you are thinking about trying this ship, but you have some reservations, I believe it is worth trying.
Yeah.
Because it really defied my expectations in a lot of ways, including a big one that I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit.
And let's talk about some of those venues outside of the galley that you can grab a meal or a sit-down restaurant, because as we know, Virgin, it's all-inclusive pricing. So you could go to all these specialty restaurants we're going to talk about included in the price of your cruise, also gratuities added in there as well. So no need to have to worry about that daily charge. But I want to ask you, out of all the places you dined, and we'll hit them one by one, but which one really stuck out, and tackle that one first?
Ooh, that's a tough question. Now, I just want to say something here before we go on. This is starting to sound like we are being paid by Virgin Voyages or like they paid for our trip or something. None of that is true. This is just, honestly, I was really thrilled by this ship. And, I was excited to try this line. And so food-wise, it is a very cool concept, being able to, basically everything is a specialty restaurant and all of it is included. And I really liked that. I'm going to start, instead of with my favorite, I'm going to start with my least favorite. And that was one I was really looking forward to, which was Gun Bay. I really thought that was going to be a great experience. And it turned out to be okay. The food was okay, but the real problem was it is loud in there. Everybody's playing this drinking game, which we ultimately our group decided to pass on. But even if you pass on it, everyone around you is clapping and shouting Gun Bay and yelling. And it's very, very loud. It is not conducive to having a conversation. Also, if you happen to be one or two people, you are going to be sat with other people. Mm-hmm. We were a big enough group that we weren't, so that worked out great. But I don't know if I would do Gun Bay again or not. I mean, maybe if I could arrange that it was going to be early before it got really loud and all that, but I don't know. All the others I really liked. I think my favorite was probably Rojo. I went there twice for brunch and once for dinner. And everything I had there was delicious. They do this at a couple of their restaurants, including Gun Bay. The server will come over and be basically like, we did this at Extra Virgin, the Italian restaurant too. They'll be like, do you want us to just bring you a bunch of appetizers? And if you can share them all. And if you find something you like, you can order extra of it and then order your own entrees. And at Rojo, Gary and I we did two dinners that night because we went to a dinner show at 5 and then we had a reservation at Rojo with everybody else at 8. And they bring out all the appetizers and we're all chowing down on them and they're amazing. And then I realized we had also ordered steaks out of the entree. I've never eaten so much food in my life as I did that night. But yeah, I would say Rojo was definitely a favorite. Extra Virgin, which is their Italian restaurant, kind of surprised me because I wasn't really looking forward to it. Kimberly was really excited about it. And I was like, okay, whatever. I don't care. If I don't like it, I'll eat somewhere else later. And it was really good. It was, I had some things I'd never had before, which again, that's also interesting to me is that in every restaurant we went to, there were things I had never had before. Some things I'd never even heard of before. It wasn't like, how sometimes you go to a main dining room and there's okay, chicken, lasagna, burger, whatever. These were truly specialty restaurants with a really great variety of food. Other than Gun Bay, like I said, maybe I wasn't in the right mood for it or whatever, but what'd you think of Gun Bay?
I liked it. It's a one and done for me, and only because I like cooking your own food at a Korean place, and it is kind of awkward too, right? Because normally when a group of friends are together, sometimes you're having not inappropriate conversations, but you don't want people eavesdropping, and you have the person cooking it right in front of you there. So it's like when you're at a Mexican restaurant back home and the guy comes over and makes the tableside guacamole. It's like, okay, what are we going to talk about now? Because ears are listening. But I like the food. But yeah, for me, it was a one and done just because it's if I wasn't with 5 people, I'm not a big fan of sitting at a table with strangers. And kind of
in a situation like
it's an intimate environment, right? Like family style with the dishes they bring out and things like that. It's just, one and done, but it was really good. I'm glad we did it.
Yeah, I am too. I am too. I'm trying to think what else is there. There was.
I like the wake. The brunch wake was good. I thought the steak was amazing. I would put that steak up against any steakhouse.
The best steak I had, and I had several over the course of the week because I'm a steak fan, was actually the first dinner that Gary and I had on the night of Rojo. We went to a dinner show called Up with a Twist. And one of the things, it was a 5-course meal with 5 drinks and a show. It was $50 a person. And our intention was that we were just going to take little bites because we knew we were going to go to this dinner at Rojo afterwards. No way. That steak was so good. I ate every bite of it. But yeah, the food on this ship was fantastic. I did not have a bad meal all week.
And it's important to say, too, that there is no main dining room on this ship. And if you do want to eat at these restaurants, because they're all included in your fare, so why not? You do want to make these reservations well in advance before you board, or you could miss out.
The other thing is, once you get on board, and we did do this because we had a reservation we wanted to change, when you get on board, they have a set place. In this case, they did it in Rojo, where from for the first 4 or 5 hours that you're on board, you can go there and try and make reservations or change reservations. They have 7 or 8 people set up in there with their computers to try and help do this. The other thing is, I one day wanted to go to brunch and nobody else was around to do it. So I was going to do brunch for one. I went to Rojo. And they have a seating area in the back. It's like a little lounge where, they will accept a walk-in if you don't have a reservation, but you may have to wait a little bit. So you can go back in the back and hang out there, have a drink, whatever, and wait. So you can get in restaurants, but especially if you have a bigger group, like I'd say if you have more than 4 people, do everything in your power to make those reservations when the window opens.
I would say the pizza joint on there, which has pizza and Caesar salads and such, probably one of the best pizzas I've had at sea, right up there with Princess, probably, but with Alfredo's. But I will say that they do make them to order, so you're not going to just walk up there and get a slice. You're going to order it, and they're going to tell you it's going to be about 20 minutes. They give you a beeper, and then the beeper goes off, and you pick up your pizza there. So if you're looking for just a slice, you might want to go up to the galley. But if you want a whole pie, the pizza place right there on deck 7 is amazing.
And it's worth noting that they switch what pizzas they're doing. You know what I mean? They have the standard, and then they have a special of the day. Well, they had one day they had eggplant pizza, Parmesan, and yeah, that is very delicious. Another place that's really interesting is the Social Club, which is where they do a lot of the trivia. It's right next to the arcade. They have an arcade with old school games Pac-Man, Defender, Stargate, and they're all free. The Social Club has things that you would expect to find it. It's almost like carnival food, not Carnival Cruise Line. Carnival, you go to a carnival. They have popcorn, they have pretzels, they have wings. I liked the wings. Gary thought the wing sauce was a little sweet for him. But again, this is a great place. When you're going to play trivia, you can sit there at the bar if you want and order food. And again, all included. So get some snacks while you're playing trivia. The other thing they have there that's kind of cool is the Social Club has outside of it these big cabinets, and they are filled with games. And it's not sometimes, and this is probably true the longer a ship operates, but I remember I was on the Queen Mary, and I had met somebody, and we were going to sit and play a game, and we opened the game and half the pieces were missing. Yeah. And it was an old game. It was from the 1950s. They have Cards Against Humanity. They have, a lot of risque and fun games, as well as Blocus and Monopoly and things like that. And I don't think I've ever seen so many games. Maybe on Holland America, they might have had that many games in the Crow's Nest up there, but I guarantee you they didn't have Cards Against Humanity. That's a little outside their comfort zone.
I was wondering why at brunch you rolled in with Cards Against Humanity. I'm like, did you think you're going to be that bored on this ship that you brought games from home?
No, and the funny thing is we never even played it, but I thought, I was because you can grab it and take it wherever you're going. And I was at brunch we can have some fun playing Cards Against Humanity, which I've always wanted to play and never have. But no, we ended up having too good a time at brunch to actually play the game.
let's chat about entertainment here. And what did you think of it? You did a lot more entertainment than I did. I'm not big for, I noticed everywhere there was a show or something happening, there was a little bit of a line because it always backed up like into the casino, no matter
Not
pretty much.
a little bit of a line. There was a big line for a lot of the shows.
Yeah. And that's not me at all. Like, I just don't have the patience for it. I'll pop in and get a crappy seat after the people go in. So talk to us about some of the entertainment they offer. And we'll kind of unpack that.
Entertainment is a little bit of a mixed bag. There's a lot of live performances around the ship. One of our favorite things we did was the very last night, Abby, who is the hostess of the ship, and she's actually played hostess on all 4 of the ships, I believe. She put on a cabaret act in, well, I call it the atrium. It's the roundabout or whatever. And it was so much fun. And poor Gary, who hates interacting with entertainers, was roped into being part of her show for the entire show. But even if he had not been, it's just a really fun show. It's a combination of an intimate performance and comedy, which is a really hard combination to pull off, and she does it amazingly. The ship has a hostess, and it also has a diva, and the diva in this case was Dixie Crystals. She hosted everything from, she did a Western show, she hosted Drag Bingo, which was a lot of fun. So there were those kind of shows. Then the next level of shows are the shows that take place in the Red Room and the Manor, which are both entertainment venues. And I kind of feel like they are too small because, I really wanted to see, they have a new show they were introduced on this ship called Murder in the Manor. I really, really wanted to see it because I love interactive murder mystery kind of things. But both shows, the line was so long. And at a certain point, a staff member started walking down the line and said, just so you know, you're probably not going to get in. It wrapped all the way through the casino, all the way out into the lobby. It was long. So, that's a little bit of a problem, is there's these great shows that are really hard to get into. The best show I saw, and it is probably one of the best shows I've seen on sea, was what I mentioned before, Up with a Twist. The idea here is Lady Valentina runs an emporium of excess, and it is revealed that she is retiring, and the audience is going to pick the person who will take over her emporium. And so the rest of the show is them putting on various acts, including, juggling acts and singing and dancing and all this. And they're all in really elaborate costumes, and they interact with the audience. And it's a dinner show, so you get 5 cocktails and a 5-course meal. It's $50, and it is worth every penny. I highly recommend it. If you like shows, this is, it's a little bit more risque, a little bit more over the top than you might find on most cruise lines. So that was excellent. The other thing that they have, of course, is the late night parties. They're very well known for their late night parties. There's a pajama party on the first night. There's a glow party or an electric party. There's Scarlet Night. There's the Electric Circus. Going into this, I went out and bought outfits for all of this. I bought so many outfits. I bought an outfit for the 80s workout, which was a lot of fun. But as I mentioned earlier, I'm not someone who stays up late generally. So I was really struggling. The first night I was going to skip the pajama party, but I had a really cool outfit and Kimberly really wanted to go. So we hung out for like a half hour and then left. The rest of the week I didn't really go to any of the late night parties. And if you are someone who is thinking, well, I want to go on Virgin, but I don't think I have the energy to do these late night parties. I don't want to stay up all night. That's just not my scene. Don't let that stop you, because I felt as if you took all of those late night parties away, I would still have had an amazing trip. Like, you had a great trip, and I don't think you went to any of the shows.
Yeah, I did. I walked around during the red night, which was the next to the last night. And that was really cool how everything turns red. The hallways, the outside, all the lighting around the ship is red. And it's just kind of like this moving or roving party for hours on end. And if you don't want to take part of it, you don't have to. But if you want to, there's something for everyone to do.
It culminates at the pool party, which is the big deal that everybody hears about. And I wanted to at least take part in that. I wasn't really into the rest of it. So I went up to the level above the pool deck so I could look down. And I stayed for the there's like a 20-minute opening segment where the diva sings, Dixie sings, the Happenings cast, who are incredible, put on a show. The people from Dual Reality, which is a gymnastics show, come out and they do a show. And it's about 20 minutes long, high energy. And then it turns into a dance party and they invite everybody to join them and splash in the pool and all that. I went for the first 20 minutes and I was really glad I did. It was a lot of fun. Same with, there was another party on the very last night called Electric Circus. I didn't intend to go, but I got up to my room and realized, oh crap, I have a $25 coupon that I need to either cash in the casino or play in a machine. I was like, I'll just go down and play $25 and then go back to bed. But I heard the music coming from the manor and was like, okay, let's go in and see what this is. I'm so glad I did. I only stayed, again, for about 15 minutes, which is when the Happenings cast and the Dual Reality cast are putting on sort of a show that kicks off the dance party. And it involves gymnastics, unlike the kind of thing you think they can't do that on a ship, and they do. At one point, there's this young woman who, she's tiny. She's like, 4 feet tall, and she's part of the troupe. And they throw her up, and she is like, it's a 2-story facility, and she is up in the lights at the top of there. It's terrifying and amazing. And then the disco party starts, and that's very fun. But at that point, I was like, okay, I'm going to bed. So it's very easy to pop in and out of the parties at the early stage. Once the party really gets going, like, don't try and go to the pajama party an hour into it because you will not get in there. It is, or you might, but you're going to be squeezed in like sardines. But I kind of liked going to the first 10, 15 minutes of the party where it's the cast of the ship sort of putting on a show for you before the dance party. And yes, Scarlet Night, it's kind of cool watching the ship transform. We were all going to go down to Sip Lounge and drink champagne. And as you're wandering through there, you suddenly see, oh, look, there's octopus blow-ups here. And then you go down another hallway and there's like gigantic blown up pufferfish. And it's cool seeing the ship transform over the course of the day until you get to the night and they tell you the story of Scarlet Night. And there's a special song for Scarlet Night. And yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's cool.
I got a couple of DMs during this sailing asking what the demo was like, and it was 18 to 90 something. I was walking past a 92nd birthday party on there, and I think you saw an older one too. But it just felt like you were, and I don't know if it was because it was an 18 and up cruise where it just felt like it was like you were vibing with everyone and you were just with like-minded people and could so easily strike up a conversation.
I agree. I talked to so many people on this sailing, although my friends will tell you that if you're ever on a ship with me, there's a very good chance you're going to talk to me because I talk to everybody. But one of the things I really noticed was that the crowd was not as young as I thought it would be, and it was not as old as it often is. It was a good range, I mean, there were some like 18-year-olds on board and you'd see them. And I mean, I'm 61, so an 18-year-old looks much younger than they really are. They look like they're 12. And I'd be like, wait, are kids not supposed to be on this ship? And they're like, oh, wait, that's actually what 19 and 20-year-olds look like now. Most of the people were probably in the range between, I would say, 30 and 60.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't see as many what they call blue hairs. You didn't see as many 80 and 90-year-olds as you did, like I did on Holland America when we were in Alaska. But it was not at all the crowd I expected. And part of me wonders if that has to do with sailing out of New York. Like, Miami is a much hipper town than, New York is a hip town, but I feel like maybe Miami has a much younger party demographic. I don't know, but it was very comfortable. I don't think anybody on that ship was uncomfortable, which I expected to be. I expected to feel like an old man on that ship, and I did not. And that wasn't because there were people my age on it. It was because it's kind of weird. You get on this ship expecting that age is going to be a big factor, that it's going to be like a lot of young people, a lot of like 20, 30 people. And it's not. And so everybody, I think you really put it well, it becomes like this melting pot where everybody is chill. It's almost like they pump drugs through the air because everybody was just the crew. I have never experienced a crew as happy as this one. And they don't, there's no tipping. You can tip, but they don't expect tips. And they're just happy and willing to help you. And you get the sense, I talked to several crew members who were like, yeah, they treat me pretty well and I like this. I talked to some who had worked on other cruise lines and found this to be a much more amenable fit. They felt like this cruise line paid more attention to their wants and their needs and like really went out of their way to make them happy because they know that a happy crew is, going to better serve the customers. Yeah.
The crew was you could tell they wanted to be there. They wanted to work there. And it was just cool to see crew like that because sometimes they look like zombies walking around, whether they're pushing a broom or serving you. But these folks looked they were full of energy. Also, I want to say, as far as entertainment, just kind of hit on the bars for a second. There were so many different watering holes, we can call them, where we all found our own place to kind of hang out for the week. Like mine was the Draught House right there on 7. And I also like going.
Sip. Gary was in SIP every minute of every day.
Yeah, and also there's that bar that you and I went to on the very back of the ship on 7, overlooking what's it called, the Wake Bar,
I think it was the Dock House,
something like that. Yeah, you hear the water going, and it's just so amazing just to be there into the moment. And yeah, you see that a lot too. People would go to their favorite bar. I'm like,
I do need to complain about one thing. I found, and I've been told by people who have sailed a lot on Virgin that, I may have missed some things, which obviously I did. We were only on for 5 boards. But I found it very hard to find a spot to get a drink in the morning. On most ships, I have a routine where in the morning, I go to the lobby or the atrium. And it's always open by 7 or 8 in the morning. And that's where people drift for drinks. The atrium bar here didn't open until 1 or something. And apparently there was a pool bar that was open. I never really go to pools, so I didn't really go to the pool bar. But it was really hard to find a drink in the morning, which I found shocking, especially on this particular line. I thought that was crazy that it was that hard to find a drink in the morning.
Yeah.
I also have very mixed feelings about, since we're talking bars, about the whole concept of a bar tab. So going into this, we were trying to Gary and I were trying to figure out how much money we might need on the bar tab. And we definitely overestimated. We bought $1,000 bar tab for the two of us, which came with a $250 bonus. That's $1,250 for 2 people for 5 days. As you know, by about day 3, we were gathering people. We would get you and the mics, these people that we knew on board. And we would all go to Sip Bar, and Gary would just order bottles of champagne to spend the money because you don't get that money back.
Right.
If you buy $1,000 bar tab, whatever you don't spend, you don't get back. Now, I would like to see them. I think it would be really smart of them to say, hey, if you have $200, $300 left, put it toward a future cruise, because that's going to get you back on the ship again. Use it as a deposit for a future cruise. But they don't do that. You lose it. So, really take the time to figure out how much you and your friends need. You can always just, not do a bar tab, or you can get a small bar tab and then, spend more. The reason bar tabs are so successful is because you do get a bonus. No matter how much of a bar tab you buy, you get some extra. Don't do what we did. Don't be a Gary and a Richard. Don't buy $1,000 bar tab for 5 days.
I know that was it day 4? You kept ordering these bottles of expensive champagne. I'm like, does he know how much these actually cost? And you're like, oh yeah, I have $1,000 to burn or something. I'm like, wow. All right. I want to ask you what you thought about the sea days as far as crowds and congestion. I know some people, the pool got some pushback. I'm not a pool person, so it really doesn't faze me at all. I mean, I barely even go outside into the sun because I'll burn in a second. What were your thoughts, though, of the sea days around the ship?
I really liked that they had a lot of things going on. There was constantly trivia. Like I mentioned before, they did some of the shows on sea days. The restaurants, there were plenty of places to go and eat. So they did sea day brunches at both Rojo and the Wake. I found it, I am also not a pool person. I did wander past the pool, and it was a madhouse. But I think that's true on a lot of ships. I love the ocean. I love water, but I am not interested in going on a cruise ship pool because they're just, I don't know, it just doesn't appeal to me. I found that sea days were best for lounging, whether you were having drinks with friends in the bars or swinging in your hammock or watching a movie. Like I needed the sea day relaxation to sort of bounce back from the power drinking and eating that we were doing at night.
Let's talk about our only port that we had on board this 5-night cruise, which was Bermuda. You did more than I did. I did more of when we docked, I went out, had a good time, and came back to the ship late. You, though, spent basically the full next day in port. So how was your day in Bermuda?
It was great. I didn't really have much interest in going to Horseshoe Bay, but several of the people in the group wanted to, and I was like, well, you know what? I'll go with them. It turned out to be amazing. So when you get to Horseshoe Bay, it's like a $7 cab ride there, or minibus. They load them in, and $7 a person. You get over there, and there's the main beach where it was $20 to rent a umbrella and then $20 per chair. So we got some chairs, we got a couple of umbrellas, and we're hanging out on the main beach. But if you go to the left or the right, on one side is a really cool cove, and on the other side is a trail. And if you wander down that, it's a sand trail that sort of goes up into, it looks like it's going up into the hill. As you wander down that, like every 50 yards, there's a whole new private beach. There are plenty of places. I really, really, really enjoyed that, and I did not expect to. We spent like 3 or 4 hours over there and then came back to the ship. Yeah, I didn't do anything the night before. I know you went into town or, wherever you went wandering. I was tired and I had things I wanted to do, and we had a dinner plan, so I stayed on the ship at night. I've been to Bermuda a million times, but I never enjoyed it the way I did this time.
Yeah, we went and walked through this, it looked like a junkyard almost, where a bunch of yachts were washed up on the shore from the hurricane. It was the wildest thing, and it was getting dark. I'm like, let's get the heck out of here before like a junkyard dog comes and charges at us. Then we went to that. You ever go to the Bonefish Bar and Grill there on the corner?
Yep.
We went there and had some drinks and some dinner, and then made our way back to the ship around midnight. But it was another cool place, and I always get a kick out of that pirate ship there because it just gets so packed. And it was funny, we were pulling in the port that day because we arrived like around maybe 5 o'clock in the evening, and the guy next to me was like, "Yeah, my travel agent told me that the number one thing to do in Bermuda is to go on that pirate ship right there and just spend the entire day."
Insane to me.
And I was like, "What? Your travel agent said that?"
Which is so crazy to me that I don't even understand that. But, everybody has a different thing. I also don't get the whole Senior Frog thing in Bahamas, people love that. But I'm like, what's interesting is on this, it was a little bit different than my normal trip because I usually have a drink package. And so I'm like, well, I can drink for free on the ship. Here, it was worth getting off and going for drinks because I was going to pay for drinks one way or the other.
Yeah,
although I had $1,000 bar tab. So,
well, you think of Bermuda, you think of like the sandy beaches, golf, parasailing, fishing, diving, not sitting, getting drunk on a docked pirate ship or a replica pirate ship, right?
Right, exactly.
Anyway, it was a great experience, and I hope they had a good time up there too. So that's all that really matters. As the ship left Bermuda, so we were there from around 5 p.m. and then we left the next day around 3 p.m. and we started heading back towards Manhattan. A little bit of you could feel the motion in the ocean heading up there, couldn't you?
Yeah, Mary, one of the people in our group, actually, and I think Kimberly as well at one point, they both got a little seasick. I didn't have that problem, but I very rarely get seasick. But yeah, we definitely felt it at certain points. I mean, I feel like now hurricane season may be a limited time, but I feel like rough seas can happen at any time. Like it's just the way of the world. So if you're going to get on a ship, you have to be prepared that it might be a little bit rough at times.
Yeah, and it's also worth saying if you're going to Horseshoe Beach like Richard did, don't try to bring back shells and sand. So many people got stopped, and the X-ray machine's going to see it, and they're going to say you're going to stop the line, which pisses everyone off. And
people get annoyed that you can't do that, but it's like if everybody does it, there will be nothing left. Right. There are thousands of people go there every week, and if everybody brings some sand and seashells back, ain't gonna be much left in a little while.
The ship gets back to New York City, and one thing Virgin does do is later debark. I know I was off the ship probably around 9 o'clock. How long did you stay?
I think we went right after you. We all had breakfast. Mm-hmm. which was really nice. You can go to the galley and have a nice sit-down breakfast. All of the different things up there are open just like they normally would be. So we all went up and we had a nice sit-down breakfast. And then I think we left right around the same time as you did. And it was a very easy disembark. There is a little bit of a communication problem, I will say. Like, we didn't really understand what we were supposed to do with our luggage. Like, they were like, just leave it in the hallway with your luggage tags. And I'm like, well, are you going to give us? Usually you get color-coded luggage tags. Here, that does not happen. They just use the same luggage tag that you had at the beginning of the trip, so make sure to keep it on your bag. And then when you get off the ship and go into the terminal, the bags are organized by what deck you were on, which sounds confusing and terrifying. It really wasn't. It was really pretty easy. But there were several things like that where they didn't necessarily give you great information as far as how to do something. We were looking on the app, we're looking on everything. We couldn't even figure out what deck we were supposed to disembark in until the elevator door opened. And there's a big poster with Richard Branson's face on it saying, want to get off, go down to deck 6, or whatever. So there were some things that I didn't think they did a great job of communicating with, but otherwise disembarkation was pretty smooth and we were on our way, very quickly.
I did like the app was nice. I did appreciate like the AI assistant, because anything I needed to get an answer to, I just asked the AI assistant and it just like generated a summary of what I was asking. Did you play around with that at all?
I didn't. And I found the app. I found some of the technology on the ship to be very glitchy, and like at one point, the entire system used by the reservation system went down. At another point, the tablets all went out. And that is sort of the danger of, modern cruising. We're moving more and more toward using technology. But when that technology glitches, it screws everything up for everybody. And there were a couple of cases of that. And I don't know if that's true on the older ships or if it was just, this is the newer ship, so they were still working out the glitches.
One thing I will say with this debark process, well, I did like it was a quiet debark, too. You know how most cruise ships are like, all right, now calling zone A, B, C.
We heard no announcements,
so beautiful.
And I mean that in the best possible way, almost the entire week. Like, they told us to do the safety drill, and they told us when we were arriving in Bermuda not to take sand off the beach. But it was not one of those things where they were like, okay, and there's bingo in 20 minutes, and then, we're selling seashells at 4:00. None of that. It was wonderful.
It was so nice. When you get off the ship and you're in Manhattan, if you don't live there, you didn't drive, and you're trying to get an Uber back to like JFK, LaGuardia, or what's the other one? Newark. Be careful there's people out there holding Uber and Lyft signs. They want to like make you think that they are with Uber and Lyft, and they're not at all. They're just private people who want to take you to the airport. Most of them are not insured at all. They're not metered, and they're going to get you in their cab. And once they have you basically captive, they're going to tell you, oh, it's going to be $150 or $200 to JFK.
What I typically do is walk about a block away and use my app to summon an Uber, to get an official Uber.
Well,
I walk away from the madness a little bit, and it's much easier and much safer.
Well, I was going to tell you, I was using Lyft, and right there where everyone kind of gets dumped out at on 12th, I used Lyft there, and it was $113. I walked down in front of the Intrepid and then did it again, which is the battleship, right, or aircraft carrier right next to the cruise terminal, maybe about 700 feet away, 1,000 feet away. I walked there, and it was $68. So it dropped significantly, too, because of not everyone was so dense trying to hit it up in this one pocket.
Exactly.
So wrapping this up here, what kind of first-time tips do you have for Brilliant Lady, whether it's like booking advice, dining reservation advice, shows?
Don't be afraid. I think Virgin made such a splash when they came onto the market that for many people, including myself, it was intimidating. The idea of this ship that was going to do everything differently was intimidating. And once you get on board, they do a lot of things differently, but not so radically differently that you're like, freaked out. I think that's like the best piece of advice you can give somebody is do not be afraid to try it. It's not going to be for everybody. Mm-hmm. That is very true. My mom would have hated this ship, because it is loud and it attracts a very different crowd. I mean, there were a lot of gay people on board. There were punks on board. but not like in a scary way, just like in a way that, like you said, everybody comes together and everybody's having a great time. It is probably one of the most welcoming environments I've ever walked into. So yeah, don't be afraid, and definitely make reservations, especially for dinner reservations. Make your reservations. We stayed up until midnight on the night they opened so that we could make them and had no problem. But there were a lot of people who didn't make their reservations before getting on board, and you could hear them, really complaining about the difficulty they were having in getting things.
I wish I would not have waited 4 years to try this brand out. At first, I was a little skeptical with, the intimacy kits in every single stateroom and selling certain things in the gift shop, which they don't any longer. But it's like, this is not my vibe, but after sailing this, and it's shifting, whether it be the new CEO or just going in the direction that the passenger wants to go into, it is such an amazing line.
Although there is a tattoo parlor, and I did get one.
Yeah. How is that going, by the way?
Great. I loved the guy who did it, was so professional, and he had me come back like every day because I was nervous because it was my first time, and I will never get another tattoo. But, I recently launched my own kind of website, and I wanted to get the logo for it, and I gave him the logo, and he did it perfectly. It's amazing. I love it. And it's just cool that that is something you will not find on any other line. And they're very good they will not let you walk in there drunk and get a tattoo.
Right.
Like they have a lot of rules in place. That's just something I would never normally do, but I did because I was on this cool adventure. And that's what it feels like. It feels like you're going on an adventure, and you're not going to go too far out of your comfort zone.
And what website did you launch, Richard?
I recently launched a site called cruisingtips.com. And it's very, very nebulous, and it's only just started. But I'm excited about it. It's where you do so much cruise news. I sort of focus a little bit more on stuff like this. I'm going to be writing about like the things that a first timer needs to know when they cruise, or when they cruise on Virgin in particular. It's really focusing on that aspect. And I'm having fun with it, but I also have a real full-time job running a soap opera site. I run soaps.com. That's my real job. And that is a very, very big job. So right now, forgive me if there's not a lot of new content coming up, but over the next couple of months, I think it's going to really develop and be fun. Thank you for asking.
Did you have any I wish I knew before I boarded moments?
I can't say that I did, because I think everything was so new to me on this ship that I don't know that I really did. I also did a lot of research going into this. Like, I knew to make the reservations, and I knew, that Rojo was a restaurant I was really wanting to make sure I got a reservation for. So yeah, I don't really think I do have any of that.
The casino, we didn't talk about that, the smoke situation in and around it. I did randomly find a smoking casino with about 8 machines in it right behind the cashier's cage in the casino. Did you come across that one?
I didn't. I knew there was one,
yeah.
Because they mentioned it in the safety briefing, but I never found it. And it is lovely having a smoke-free casino, especially as someone who is a former smoker who finds himself tempted whenever he's around smoke. So that was amazing. I was very happy about that.
Who do you think this ship is best suited for? What style of traveler?
People who are looking for something a little bit different and are willing to sort of maybe not love everything. Like they're willing enough to experiment that if some things aren't like with Gunbay, I didn't love Gunbay, but I loved the experience of it. So it's really for people who are looking for a different experience in the cruise sector that is going to push their boundaries a little bit, but it's not like it's going to throw them off a cliff.
Makes sense. Also, I think it's worth noting, did you status match at all?
I did. I status matched with Norwegian. But again, this is an area where they don't necessarily do a really great job of communicating. I status matched, which meant that I was supposed to get like a free bag of laundry and a daily free specialty coffee, but there's no information anywhere on how to do that. Like, do you just walk up and say, "Hi, can I have free coffee?" So I never did take advantage of any of that. And I will correct that next time. And there will be a next time, because I got off this ship and immediately came home and was like, what other sailings are they doing out of New York City? and found a great sailing for next September. And yeah, it's a year away, but they're bringing the Valiant Lady here. So I want to try the same line with a different ship. I'm already booked. I'm excited.
I was deep blue. That was my status when I matched Diamond on from Carnival to Virgin. But I did get the laundry. I did get the coffee, but you didn't get a letter in your room outlining all that?
I got a letter saying these things were available, but no indication of how to
you just do it.
partake in them.
Yeah, just do it, man.
Just do
then
it.
Question
just
it later.
Go down and say, yo, give me coffee.
Did you find the value was there for the price you paid?
100%. 100%. I don't think I would have felt that way. Now, we did bid on a lot of upgrades, including we placed a ridiculous bid on one of the, I think it's called a Gorgeous Suite or some such thing. Thank God we didn't get it. I don't think I would have felt that if I had gone Rockstar or paid the money to bid up. But I thought with the meals included and the tips included and the exercise classes included, and I 100% thought it was worth it. And it's interesting to note that on my last 4 or 5 cruises, I have sort of gotten used to the suite life. I've been doing the retreat and the Haven and all that. I did not do a Rockstar here. I do not regret it. And I am booking another one for next year, and I'm not doing Rockstar then. I don't feel like I need it on this ship. I feel like the experience of the ship is good enough that I don't need the suite experience. You
were talking earlier about this was not a comped cruise for you, and I will say it wasn't for me either. I paid just over $2,300 for the 5 nights, the inside solo rate, and this might be one of my new favorite cruise lines. I just can't stress enough how nice it was.
And I don't
not hearing announcements.
That. That's what's cool. I think we both went into it thinking, we're going to have a good time. We're on a cruise. But I don't think either of us thought we would walk away so excited about the experience.
Yeah, and they offered me the inaugural sailing out of New York as a comp and on the sailing before ours, but I didn't want to take it because I wanted to get that authentic. I didn't want that insulated experience. I wanted to see what it was really like being a passenger where hopefully no one knows who the heck I am.
Yeah. I agree.
Very nice.
I loved it.
Well, we'll leave it with that. Staff writer Richard Sims, it was so great seeing you, man. I think it's been 3 years or so since I saw you last. And
let's not make it so long.
Yeah, for sure. We'll try to line up and do another one next year or so on a different one. So very nice.
Great.
Staff writer Richard Sims, as always, my friend, thank you so much for helping me with this.
As always, glad to be here.
Just back from a cruise? Let's talk about it. Email Doug at cruiseradio.net.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer. If you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,